evening. Welcome to The Next Word. I'm your host, Chris Warnke, and tonight we have a very special guest because we're going to be commemorating March Women's History Month. We have Nina Roque, who's the Executive Director of the National Women's Business Council here in Washington, D.C., talking about women entrepreneurship and that we need more of it.
Absolutely.
Right? Much more
Absolutely.
of it.
Thank
so
you
Nina,
so much for having me.
Thank you. And your background is so impressive, and you just became Executive Director, about 9 months ago?
About 9 months ago, correct, yeah.
Which, for people that don't know what the National Women's Business Council, I mean, it's a federal advisory council. A little history about it, because a lot of people don't know, they don't know it's out there, but it does,
yes.
all the centers.
So the National Women's Business Council was actually established in 1988 because, believe it or not, at that time, a lot of states required that women needed a male relative to co-sign their business loan document, which is pretty remarkable. 1988.
Wow.
Not that long ago. So
not that long. Oh my God.
Congress enacted HR 5050, 50-50
I remember that.
Symbolically named, and established the council, invalidated those state laws, and also created the Office of Women's Business Ownership, which I'm sure you're familiar with, the women business centers throughout the country. So we were created, the council, specifically to advocate for women-owned businesses at a time where women-owned businesses really were invisible.
Wow. Totally invisible.
Yeah, so today there's 12 million women-owned businesses in this country, about 4 in 10.
So 12 million. Okay,
12
wow.
million.
So it's really grown.
It's really grown.
Substantial.
So.
Oh, wow. So the centers, though, the business centers, because I know they've been created all over the country, and they're so useful. They're so useful. How many are there now? I mean, how many? I know there are more that have been established.
There's approximately 100. We advocate for women-owned businesses throughout the country, and we work very closely with the women business centers. Okay. We have on our council the chair of the Association of Women Business Centers as well. So we work very closely, and we advocate for their funding, make sure that they're effectively advocating and providing services and resources to women business owners.
But so Nina, I mean, to walk through. So what do you all provide? I mean, it's really soup to nuts in terms of kind of the services that these centers provide. I mean, they're very helpful. I know. I've been through the course. I've seen what they've done. I've seen them here in Virginia. Yes. They really help a woman create a business plan, or I mean.
They help them create a business plan. You can walk in. This is something that's run specifically by SBA and the Office of Women's Business Ownership, which we're separate from. But we see the results, the positive results that these women business centers have on women entrepreneurs. So that's why we very effectively advocate for these women business centers.
Now, the council, though, made up of a board, right?
Yes.
National board.
15 women.
Across the country?
Across the country. There's one presidentially appointed chair. There's 6 representatives of national women's business organizations. I'm sure you're familiar with them. WIP, NABO, WPO. They all sit on our council.
Okay.
And then there's 8 small business owners from across the country, representing very diverse business sectors, geographic areas. So these women really are the megaphone and the vocal point for women business owners throughout the country.
Wow. So you're Cuban American.
I am.
And I was so interested to see that the Hispanic American women, business owners, have been one of the fastest growing
business sectors. Absolutely. Minority women-owned firms are growing at a rate that's way faster than the general business population. And in addition to that, one segment that we're looking at is minority-owned firms, but also veteran women entrepreneurs. We're looking at them as well. So veteran women entrepreneurs grew at a rate of 300% from 2007 to 2012.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so we are very interested in these sectors, specifically in how we can continue to encourage them to grow and to expand their businesses.
But the government's given them a lot of tools, certainly, in terms of
I
access to programs
and resources and tools. A lot of them through the women business centers, but also through public-private partnerships that really work to encourage these sectors, training them. How are they able to navigate the federal procurement, for example,
Right.
federal procurement process. That's something that we're very interested in advocating for as well. So
Oh, it's tough.
it's very tough. There's the federal government is the largest market in this
Right.
entire country. And women businesses do not even account for 5% of those federal procurement dollars.
Oh, I
So
know.
we're very interested in encouraging
5%?
5%,
that
not
low?
even 5%.
Oh
That's
my
the
God,
goal.
That's really low. That's
And women-owned
outrageous.
businesses do not even get there. Right now, I think they're at 4.7%.
Really?
So
Oh, that's really frightening. I didn't know it was
is.
that low.
it
My
is.
God.
It's very low.
So you're working through that just to ensure that certainly these women, veteran-owned businesses or women minority-owned businesses
Absolutely.
have this access to participating in this procurement process,
Right.
which has always been kind of cut off to women-owned businesses for years, and so.
Right, so
It's
SBA
exciting.
has the women-owned small business procurement program, so
Right.
we very much advocate for that program, and also to provide women business owners with the tools and the understanding of how it works to navigate through that federal procurement process, because it can be very
Daunting.
very daunting
yeah.
for these women-owned businesses.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's really where we hope to be kind of the mouthpiece through our council members.
Right.
A lot of them engage in federal procurement
Oh, really? Oh, that's
themselves.
right.
So
Now, do you hold symposiums, or how do you, I mean, I know, do you have an annual kind of
yeah, so
conference, or-
we hold 4 public meetings here in Washington, D.C. and throughout the country. And then we also hold business roundtables. So really what we want to focus on, our new chair, she was appointed by the president in August of last year. She really wants to focus on rural entrepreneurship and
that's
rural
great.
women entrepreneurs. So we want to be able to go to
That'd be wonderful.
It
Yeah,
will, yeah.
yeah.
So we want to be able to go to more rural areas, have roundtables there, talk to women business owners in those often ignored
That's great.
areas.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and really connect their voices to policymakers here in Washington, D.C.
And how do you propose, I mean, have you all put sort of like a platform on that? And because it's fascinating, because I'm a huge proponent of that. Because there's so many issues, social issues
Right.
for rural women, whether it's domestic, the domestic violence issues, and of course healthcare, access to healthcare, and there's just so many other issues. And having your own business
Right.
would be tremendously helpful to these
definitely.
women. That so how, I mean, are you? What's sort of the plan for the next?
So the number one
Yeah.
thing is we're going to be conducting some research. What are the issues that are affecting these
Right.
women in rural areas, these women entrepreneurs in rural areas? Is it childcare? Is it, like you said, more of those social
Social yeah.
issues? What is it? Is it technology? And then in addition to that, we'll hold these roundtables where
Oh,
we'll
really?
go to a rural area and invite women business owners to attend and just talk to us about what the challenges are that they're facing, what are the barriers that they're facing, and then bringing their voices to policymakers here in Washington, D.C., either by promoting their barriers and their challenges in an annual report, in our annual report, which we submit to Congress every year.
Oh, you do?
Or we do.
Okay.
That's probably our largest.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yes, I'll make sure to give you a
Yes,
copy.
please give me a copy.
But so we deliver this annual report where we provide the policy recommendations to members of Congress and the president
Okay.
of SBA that we think the council will really take women business owners to the next level. What are the policy recommendations that can make a difference?
That's great. And so, and this particular focus will be on rural women.
Rural women will definitely be one of our focuses. Another
Yeah.
one, again, minority-owned
Right,
firms. We just
right.
talked about how rapidly they're growing.
Right.
Veteran women entrepreneurs. The other big focus is STEM.
Oh, really?
STEM women entrepreneurs, yes. So we had some research we did last year on millennial women entrepreneurs.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
About the millennial women.
It was really
I find
interesting.
them very entrepreneurial, aren't they?
So-
aren't they? I mean, I would think
Yeah, so that's
from what I see.
That's the perception. The perception is that millennials in general are very entrepreneurial. But when you look at the research and you actually look at the data, unfortunately, the rates are actually declining for millennial women
Oh, really?
entrepreneurs. Millennial entrepreneurs in general, but millennial women entrepreneurs even more so.
Oh, really? What? I wonder what
So
is causing a lot of that. I mean, I'm surprised.
Yeah,
think they have
most
far
people
more
are
tools to-
surprised.
in terms of millennials, I'm fascinated with the statistics out there. But what you're saying, though, the millennials are not growing in the numbers that we thought they would.
Right. The entrepreneurial rates for this millennial generation are actually declining.
Which is
from older generations.
shocking.
It is shocking. Most people are shocked because we think of millennials like this very techie
like you.
startup.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not that techie,
Sharp,
but
they know what they're doing in terms of techie, right? Social media access. I mean, being able to.
right. So most people
so much
think that
more.
they're very entrepreneurial, but
Right.
the research has actually, the data has actually shown that the opposite is true, that the rates are declining. So at from the council's perspective, we're very interested in why is that occurring and how can we encourage more, specifically millennial women entrepreneurs.
Right.
And we can do that by shining a light on the fact that these rates are actually declining and there's a need to actually.
There's a huge need. Oh my
There's a
God.
huge. So by 2025, millennials will account for 75% of the workforce.
75%. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely. So entrepreneurship amongst this demographic is very important to our economy.
Right.
So we're very interested in the research that we've done and how we can really encourage this. So some of the policy recommendations that came out of our research were specifically parental leave.
Right.
So this is something, a
Interesting.
very hot topic right now. A lot of people are talking about this from the White House to bipartisan
Congress,
members of Congress are talking about this. So millennial entrepreneurs are more likely to be mothers and more likely to be married than their non-entrepreneurial counterparts. So
Oh, that's interesting.
it is interesting.
Because of the support network that they think, that they get from their male, from their spouse,
Right. I think that's a part of it. And
partner.
Right. I think the other part of it too is they want to become entrepreneurs because they want that flexibility in their work life so that they could be able to be, full-time mothers and also, make money, yes, which is the ultimate goal, of course.
Right.
So that's one recommendation that we had, and the other is mentorship. Mentorship is very key.
Is it? No, that's interesting.
Yeah, so a lot of millennials don't really see the mentorship that maybe they should, or they.
Yes, I mean, that would be, it's huge.
Yeah, it's huge for them to be able to see
yes.
other women that are more experienced and have successful businesses.
Oh my God.
So mentorship is something that we very much encourage. We look to programs within the SBA, like we talked about the women business centers that provide some of that guidance and mentorship. Also, the small business development centers provide that as well. So we very much encourage any kind of public-private partnership that encourages specifically millennial women entrepreneurs, because a lot of the programs are not tailored specifically to women or specifically to millennial women entrepreneurs. So we'd like to see more of that.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting.
That's great. Well, I want to come back to the networking and the mentoring. We're going to take a short break, and then I want to come back to that because that's really important. So we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Hey, Hard, what's this?
That's my resignation letter.
You're resigning. Why?
Because you're constantly ignoring me. You're half as active as you used to be, and you eat stuff like this.
You've been putting me under a lot of pressure lately.
That's why I'm ready to quit.
I forgot. I'll do better. Please, don't quit on me.
Okay, but remember, it's not what you say, it's what you do.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you.
Let's go for a walk.
Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
Welcome back. You're watching The Next Word. I'm your host, Chris Warnke, and tonight we're having a conversation with Nina Roque, who is the Executive Director of the National Women's Business Council.
Hello.
So thank you again, and this is great. This is very educational for me. Getting back to millennials and the fact that a lot of what, and certainly I had it when I was growing up and in my business career, but the networking capability, but also the mentoring.
Right.
Now, of course, I was mentored by men, which was wonderful because it helped me immensely.
Absolutely.
But what do you tell these women millennials now? I mean, to go out to everything and to network everywhere. And
definitely. Networking is key to any opportunity that you seek in the future.
Yeah.
So another piece of research that we did recently was a crowdfunding. So
I was going to talk to you about that, yes.
Yeah, so that's something we're also very interested in exploring further. Crowdfunding research has shown that women really have been able to leverage their networks.
Right, interesting.
Via Facebook, via Twitter, via LinkedIn, and leveraged those networks to acquire
Right.
capital through crowdfunding platforms.
So they have been very helpful in
They have
what
been
you're seeing.
very successful in
Interesting.
crowdfunding. And what's interesting about that research is that women have been successful in areas where they traditionally
Right.
have not,
Right.
such as technology and gaming, which we typically
Oh,
think of
interesting.
as a male-dominated
Yes,
industry.
right.
They've been very successful on these platforms. And so, of course,
Really?
historically, we've seen capital really on the East Coast or the West Coast.
Right.
But
Now in the-
crowdfunding
yeah, on the middle, right.
is a
Really?
platform that really women in more rural areas can utilize to be able to acquire some of those funds in
Right.
non-coastal areas. So we're very
That's
encouraged by that.
fascinating.
It is fascinating, and we really hope that policymakers are becoming aware of the research and encouraging that through some of the government programs that focus on entrepreneurs, such as the Women Business
Right.
Centers. We're working very closely with our council member, the Association of Women Business Centers,
Right.
to provide them with this information and this research so that they can implement it across all the women business centers.
But now they're also crowdfunding professional associations and, of course, crowdfunding organizations. And
Oh, yes.
so I'm sure
There's a lot of
there's a lot of
rules,
tools.
rules and
Rules
regulations.
rules and regulations,
Yes.
yes. It's a lot of rules and regulations, right?
But there's definitely crowdfunding professionals that are
Yes.
able to help women entrepreneurs navigate that system and be able to leverage, like you said, a lot of their networks on these platforms and be able to acquire some of that
Right.
capital that is often lacking in women-owned businesses.
Now, there are also women crowdfunding companies
Yes.
for investments, for, type of activity. So there's a lot. You're right. There's just so much more
There's
available
a lot out
to
there.
women today. I mean, young women today. I mean,
Absolutely. So we're very encouraged by this.
Oh,
All of
yeah,
this
this
is
is
new
exciting.
information and new research that's coming out. We really hope it can continue
Mm-hmm.
to make a difference in women-owned businesses. We've come a long
yeah,
way.
come a long way since 1988. I mean,
Yes, but we still
but
are not at
1988.
50-50.
My
Yes.
God, it's not that long ago. God,
A year after I was born.
I know you are because oh my God, yes, you're born. Oh my God.
But we're encouraged by it, but we still have a long way to go to get to 50-50, which is where we want to be.
A long way to go.
Yes,
Oh my God.
absolutely.
Yeah, so that's exciting. So I'm fascinated. Well, anyway, so going back though to your career, and being a Cuban American, growing up in North Carolina, you went to law school
Yes,
in
in New York.
In New York, and then you also studied in Florida.
In Florida,
Right,
yeah.
right. Then you ventured up to Washington, which was where all the action
Yeah,
is these
yeah.
days.
So-
it's exciting. So,
Yes.
And you joined the Hispanic,
Congressional Hispanic Leadership
which
Institute.
is a great organization.
Yes,
yeah.
I had the tremendous honor when I was back in undergrad
Right.
at Florida State to intern with then Congressman Lincoln Diaz-Balart through
Yes.
this Congressional Hispanic
Right.
Leadership Program. And it just really opened my eyes to Capitol Hill and really the impact and the change that one person can have, that a community can have. And I was just so empowered by that. I
Yes.
knew that I had to get
That's
back here
terrific.
somehow.
Yes, that's great.
So after law school, I practiced law for a little bit, and then I decided, you know what, I really want to come back to DC and work on policy and work on making a difference in the everyday person's life. So
That's
I came
wonderful.
back, joined Congressional Hispanic Leadership Institute, doing their external affairs and working on the congressional briefings, and which is so exciting.
Which actually plays into what you're doing today.
Yes.
But also you did the youth development,
Yes.
which again also
It's all work.
community building,
Right.
networking.
A lot
And
of
a lot of what you did
workforce.
there applies to what you're doing now in terms of your
Absolutely.
outreach.
Yes.
Right. I
So
mean,
it's all about,
it's
again,
all
like those
about-
networking,
yes.
those networks that you have and building on them. I've had a
Yes.
lot of workforce background, and so I'm just, excited about working
Yeah,
with this
that's
specific
exciting.
demographic and figuring out how
Yeah.
we can, research more and come up with the policy
Right.
recommendations that can actually make a difference.
Reaching back out, and I find this so fascinating because, you think of the millennials, as STEM focused, and social media focused. So that's, of course, crowdfunding plays
Right.
into that. And it's interesting that women are adept at creating those networks
Right.
that then parlay themselves into crowdfunding outreach.
Right.
So I guess for rural women, that's
Another
significant.
platform that they can leverage. So
which they didn't have before.
right. And so
Right.
from our perspective, we really want to make sure that women in rural areas know about these platforms
Right.
and have the tools and the
Right.
resources to be able to succeed on them.
yes.
So something that, for example, Etsy there's a lot
Yes.
of rural women that have stores on Etsy.
Yeah.
And so how do
Etsy.
they,
Oh,
yeah.
that's interesting. Now that I didn't know about.
Yeah. So it's a digital platform online. And
Yes.
so how do we provide these women entrepreneurs with the resources to be able and the tools to be able to succeed on these
Really?
platforms such as Etsy or, like the crowdfunding platforms that we
Right.
just talked about.
But now, a lot of these women, are they a lot of service focused, retail focused.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting.
So health care focused as
Healthcare-
well.
Oh, healthcare. So that's growing.
That's, yeah, the specific business sectors has stayed pretty steady among generations and among millennial entrepreneurs as well. So what we've seen is millennial entrepreneurs are more likely to have degrees in STEM, but are not necessarily starting businesses in
Oh,
STEM.
gosh.
So how do we encourage that?
Yeah. How
you
do
know,
we? Yes. Y'all thinking?
That's a question that we're exploring.
We're exploring now.
Yes, so we're working, there's an association called the Association of Women in Science, and they have an
Oh, really?
entrepreneurship program.
Right.
And so it's, working with organizations like that and figuring out how we can play a role as the voice and the
Right.
advocate
Oh,
for
it's
women-owned
huge.
businesses,
great.
specifically in the STEM field.
Oh yeah.
Or
And women in high technology.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And our new chair, she's very interested in the high tech sector, and how we can be more of a player there.
And it's a very fast growing sector for women to be employed in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very
Absolutely.
high. Yeah.
But not a lot of women in leadership roles yet.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's
so-
across the board.
Right. And so that's something we definitely, of course, would like to see a change in.
Yes.
And an increase in that, and an increase from the entrepreneurship side as well.
Yes. Oh no. So I met you through Women Leadership Live.
Yeah, that was my first time going to one of those events, which
Which
was
is
a great
something.
event.
Yeah. That was Linda McMahon.
Yes.
WWE co-founder, and
Yes, Administrator McMahon is just great to work with
Yes.
at the SBA. So very glad for her leadership. She's a woman entrepreneur.
oh, absolutely.
So she definitely understands the obstacles and the barriers that some women entrepreneurs face, and really what
Yeah,
our
I mean,
council
it's-
members are dealing with and advocating for. So
and it's fascinating to listen to her story
yes,
because the first time she tried it, it didn't work.
yeah, she has a very interesting story, and
Oh
she
my
loves
God,
to share it, which
yes,
is
it's wonderful. I mean,
always
it's-
great. We had our 30th anniversary event last year, and she came and had a round table with our chair and talked about her story and gave advice to women entrepreneurs. That mentorship, which
Yes.
is always key. So
Yes. Now, somewhere I heard, like for women who want to start their business, someone said, look, you have to get up and get back on your horse. You have to raise money,
right.
but then you have to invest money.
Yes. Yes. And so what we've seen through research is that women tend to bootstrap more than men. And
More conservative.
they're more conservative,
Yeah.
or they'll ask their family members, for example, instead
Right.
of seeking outside investors to invest
Right.
in their business. So, and at the end of the day, that inhibits their ability to grow and expand their
Right,
business
right.
because they've
They
bootstrapped.
right.
So we definitely would like to see a
Yeah.
change in that, and women focus more on high growth industries as well.
Oh, that
Really
would be
take
great.
women-owned businesses to the
Right,
next level.
To the next level.
So
And your plans for doing, in terms of public service type partnerships with private-public partnerships,
Yes.
getting the word out, trying to,
absolutely. And so just recently, for example, we had a veteran entrepreneurship training center in Texas. They reached out to us and they were like, we read your research last year and we thought it was so fantastic. We're starting this training
great.
center for veteran women entrepreneurs. And so how can we from the
that's
public sector,
Yeah.
so how can we from the public sector support this organization? So that's what we're hoping to do, work more closely with organizations like that
Right.
who are spurring that growth for women entrepreneurs.
Well, you've come a huge way in a short time. Considering, you graduated, went to law school,
Yeah.
did your law, did some law work,
Yes.
and then reached out. What do you attribute your great success to so far? Having the experience with the Hispanic Leadership Institute.
Right.
What were you received so much, and of course your network was so broad.
Yeah.
Was that your, I mean, where would you say your great success came from in terms of,
Yeah, I would probably say my Cuban American roots have definitely.
Cuban American roots, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I knew, my dad came to this country with, nothing.
Nothing,
He
yeah.
grew up in New Jersey and served in our country. And so
Yes.
definitely just seeing the hard work and the sacrifice that my parents have
Yes.
made for me has
Yes.
always been kind of a motivating factor.
Absolutely.
But of course, just networks and organizations like Congressional Hispanic Leadership Institute have really definitely motivated me.
And so you did that through an internship,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So that's why it's important, I think,
A paid internship.
which is really important.
Yes, very important.
which is great.
Yes.
But that's also very competitive.
Yes, it was. So
Yeah.
very thankful and grateful for that opportunity.
So when you talked, I'm sure you talked to younger, but you just say, just get your foot in the door.
Yes.
And
What
then
I always
figure-
tell them
figure it out
is,
after that?
yeah, you have the opportunity to come up
Right.
here, just do it and just fake it till you make it.
Fake it
'cause
till you make it. That's a
Everyone
good one.
else is doing the same.
Right.
And you belong to be here just like anyone else
Right.
and everyone else. So
And
you can do it.
What a platform, huh? I mean,
Yeah.
just to be able to, have that access, which changed your life.
Right.
So
absolutely.
far, right?
Yes. And mentorship
And
is
mentorship,
key
yeah.
for sure. And also having a mentor that's willing to also leverage their network.
Right. Well, that's huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That is
Absolutely.
everything. Yeah.
And whether it's
And
a
you have to
man
ask
or a
people,
woman.
right? Whether a man or woman. And I think it's important for people to ask.
Yes. And I think women are
Reluctant
more
to
hesitant
ask. They are
do
reluctant,
that.
and that's true. That's a good point because
Yes.
people like. Well, I heard a politician say once, people like to be asked.
Right.
guess-
Women like to be asked. Yes.
Yes, yes. So
Right.
that's
But we have more
something-
women in Congress now than ever before.
right.
So maybe
it'll be a huge change there
yes,
too.
Maybe women will
Wow.
not have to be asked
Right.
as much going
Right.
forward. So
And you have a woman, maybe chair of the Small Business Committee, maybe or maybe not.
yes, Congresswoman Velasquez.
Yes.
Yes.
She's been a champion.
She has, and she's
Champion.
worked very closely
Yes.
with the council for
Right.
many years.
Yes, she
so
has.
we hope to have a public meeting in New
Right.
York and hope she's
That's
able
terrific.
to come by as well.
great.
She has the experience, she has the knowledge,
she's great.
and so
No, she's terrific. She's great.
Yeah.
Well, this has been wonderful.
yeah, it's been
Thank
so
you.
great.
Thank you,
you.
Nino. Thank you. And
Thank
we're
you.
gonna get you back. Maybe
Absolutely.
6 months from now to find out.
The progress that we
Right,
made,
right.
give you an
The
update
progress.
on the
yes,
number.
please. I want a
Yes.
progress report. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll get you back. You've been watching The Next Word. Thank you, and have a great evening. Good night.